Happy Victor Random anniversary! I mean, technically it was yesterday, but my voice was dead. So, hello everybody, welcome. This marks the second year of Victor Random. Season 3 marks the official starting of the third year. And in an epic retale, well, my very first episode was about Christianity. And so, today, there is the Pope of the Catholic Church. There is the branch that the Pope owns. There's also the country that the Pope is in control of. And of course, the chair. Hello everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Victor Random. Boy oh boy am I excited for this. Now if you've been listening to my episodes for, a really long time, you'll sort of know what this is about when I talk about the smallest country in the world. But yes, today we are talking about, did you guess it yet? The Vatican City. Yes indeed, the Vatican City. It is a city within Italy. And it is a marvelous city. It is a beautiful city, but it also only takes 40 minutes to walk around the entire perimeter of. So, what's with the Pope? And what's with the chair? Hello everybody, and welcome to today's quote of the week. Take a risk. If you win, you'll be happy. But if you lose, you'll be wiser. Anonymous. So, recently, we have had a new Pope. Pope Leo XIV become on the throne. And now you can really only become Pope if the current Pope passes away or if they resign. But resignation usually isn't the reason that a new Pope has to be brought on. Now, we are extremely lucky to see this changing, this passing of one Pope to another in our lifetimes. But of course, how do you actually become the Pope? And I'm sure you've heard many episodes or read many articles, but I hope this clears up a lot for you. Now, to become a Pope, you have to become a lot of other things first. And how does the Pope actually get chosen? Well, the Pope gets chosen via an election by cardinals. Cardinals are one of the second highest ranking members of the Catholic Church. So it is they who choose the Pope. But of course, usually, cardinals, they can pick whoever they want. They can pick me if they want to. But of course, they don't know who I am. So usually, cardinals choose one of themselves to put on and become the Pope. But then, how do you become a cardinal? Well, to become a cardinal, you have to become a bishop. And to become a bishop, you have to become a priest. Oh, but how do you get and climb up this giant, massive staircase? Well, let's start at the very beginning with how to become a priest. So, to become a priest, you have to be a couple of things. You have to be Catholic, you have to be a man, and you have to become a celibate, aka you cannot marry anyone. But then, of course, those are just the beginning, because that actually only puts you at the steps of being a Catholic, a member of the Catholic Church. But now, in order to become a priest, you also have to get a college degree in Catholic philosophy and have a master's degree in divinity. Now, a master's in divinity, that's how you can say it to be more fancy. And a master in divinity essentially means you've taken your standard 4 years of college, then you've gone on and you've got your bachelor's degree for 2 more years, and then a master's for another 2-ish years or so. And in your master of divinity, when you master this divinity, you actually don't really learn more about divinity, but actually more about religious heritage, cultural context, personal and spiritual formation, and capacity for ministerial and public leadership. But then, of course, just because you've gone through all of these courses doesn't mean you become a priest. Because just like any other job, you still have to apply for it. And who chooses? Well, the bishops. But of course, let's say you've gotten in and you become a priest. Now, of course, when you are a priest, you run a church. You are in charge of a church and you run the programs at the church. But of course, priests don't really do much, and if you want to become a pope, you actually have to start advancing further into this ladder. So of course, your next step is to go from being a priest to being a bishop. Now, priests build and maintain churches. Bishops maintain cathedrals, and these cathedrals look over churches. So how do you become a bishop? Well, you have to first wait for a free space for a bishop. And bishops usually either die or they are forced into retirement at age 75. So it is very hard for a free space to come up. But of course, let's say there is a free spot in the bishops. So what do? Do you just go up and be like, hey, here's my resume, I'd like to apply for a bishop? No. First of all, you need more requirements. You have to be at least 35 years old and have been a priest for at least 5 years. You also need a PhD in theology. Yes, so if you are a priest with your degree in Catholic philosophy and Master of Divinity, that doesn't necessarily mean you can become a bishop, because you also have to get a PhD, which is another 4 years in theology. Now, of course, these are the requirements, but it's not just like you can go up. You can go up to other people and be like, here's my resume, I'd like a job. The other bishops are the one that choose the new bishops. They actually create a secret list of potential candidates for the new bishop. They do this before one of them actually passes away or retires. So they send this list to the ambassador for the Pope of your country, aka the nuncio, who is appointed by the Pope. The nuncio chooses a few on that list to interview and do research on before deciding which one they think is best. And of course you think, oh, the person who the nuncio thinks is best is the one that becomes, well, the new bishop. But they actually send the list with all of their notes and their thoughts to the bishops that work in the Vatican City to review all of it. And of course, if, the bishops in the Vatican City don't like it, they can ask the nuncio to start over and choose a new few to research on. But then if the priests selected by the nuncio finally get cleared by the bishops in the Vatican City, the bishops send it to the Pope, who can, veto and start the whole process again. So it can take months for a new bishop to get into that spot. But then, of course, if a free spot opens up for you for the bishop, and you're on the secret list, and a bunch of other people like you as the new bishop, you become a bishop. And you can now run a cathedral. But of course, just because you're a bishop doesn't necessarily mean you can become pope. But while you are a bishop, you can do many more things. You can now oversee other priests, and you are in charge of creating that secret list of priests to become new bishops. Or you can also oversee the hiring process of new priests. So you have much more power. But bishops still don't have any deciding factor in who becomes the pope. And in order to do that, you have to climb one more step and become a cardinal. And yes, the almighty cardinal, the one that gets a fancy little red hat above their grave if they get buried in a cathedral. The cardinals that do get to choose who becomes the next pope. But if you recognize the music, that's after the break. Fun fact about hello everybody and welcome to today's random fact generator. Today's random fact is a fun fact about bowling. Did you know that 9-pin bowling used to be the standard type of bowling in the United States? But then of course it got classified as gambling and it got banned in all states except for Texas. So then of course we came up with 10-pin bowling, which is the bowling you see today. And of course, 10-pin bowling was completely new, totally new, with longer lanes, different pin arrangement, and different, right? It's completely different. And of course, 10-pin bowling never got classified as gambling. So in most states today, you'll see 10-pin bowling, except for in Texas, where you will occasionally see 9-pin bowling. Also, another random fact, if you've been listening for a really long time, the Forbidden City in China is actually bigger than the Vatican City. I bet you can't find the episode where I said that. Not in random fact, but just in my podcast. So, how to become a cardinal from being a bishop. And actually, cardinals don't oversee bishops. They aren't the bosses of bishops. They're just bishops, but with extra powers, you know? So, how to become a cardinal. Now, the only way to become a cardinal is for the Pope to appoint you as one. So you have to wait for one of the cardinals to, once again, either pass away or become forced into retirement. So let's say that happens and the Pope chooses you to become one of the newer cardinals. Now you are a cardinal and you just have to wait patiently for the Pope to pass away or retire. It almost seems like this is just a long game of waiting and hoping you get chosen by someone above you. But now, let's say the Pope does pass away and the Pope does or retires. Now, how do you choose the Pope? Now, the only way to do this is very old-fashioned. You have to get a 2/3 majority vote to become the Pope. And of course, the only people that can vote are the cardinals. So you have to convince the other cardinals, who also probably want to be Pope, to vote for you. Now, they have 2 rounds of voting a day, except for in one day where they have prayers. But essentially, you do keep on doing this. You keep voting, you keep discussing over and over again until someone gets the 2/3 majority vote. Now, if there is no 2/3 majority, they write names, right? Because they write names on a slip of paper. If there is no 2/3 majority, they burn the paper, which is why a lot of cameras and a lot of people report on black smoke coming from the Vatican, because that black smoke means they burned the papers and there is no decision. But if there is a decision that has been made, they add a chemical to the actual fire, which changes the color of the smoke to white. So there is white smoke if a pope has been chosen. So if you are one of the cardinals and you get 2/3 majority, congratulations, you're now the pope. But what does the pope actually do? Well, the Pope has 2 responsibilities. The Pope is the leader of the Catholic Church. Now, obviously, the Catholic Church and not the entire sector of Christianity. Now, Christianity is the broad belief, and everyone who is a Christian believes in the notion of Jesus. However, different branches have different variations, and the Catholic Church, Catholicism, is one of those variations. So the Pope is the leader of the Catholic Church. And just like we've seen before, the Pope makes a lot of decisions. They lead the cardinals and make sure the entire branch of Catholicism works well. But the Pope is also the king of the Vatican City. And as the king of the Vatican City, the Pope has all power of whatever goes on within the city. He can issue citizenship within the city. He also has a group of cardinals, which the Pope, aka him, selects. So, in fact, the Vatican City is a monarchy because it is ruled by one person who has absolute control of whatever goes on within the city, or actually the country. However, because the king of the city is elected, because the Pope is chosen by other cardinals, the Vatican City isn't just a monarchy, it's an elected monarchy, in which case people, or rather cardinals, vote for the king. Isn't that strange? But then, in fact, we also must talk about one more thing. Because the Pope comes and goes, most deeds and signatures aren't actually sent out to the Pope, because once the Pope is gone, chaos can ensue. But something known as the Holy See. This is actually just the chair that the Pope sits on, but is actually a symbol of the entire Catholic Church. So, previously, before the knowledge of the Holy See that you just learned, you thought of the leader of the Catholic Church moves to the Vatican City and becomes the king of the Vatican City. But no, it's the Catholic Church has set up a base within the Vatican City, which the leader of the church is the leader of that base of the Catholic Church, but also the leader of the country. So the Catholic Church is under the benefit of the Vatican City because the king of the Vatican is the Pope of the Catholic Church. So whatever the king does for benefits for his country also benefit the Catholic Church within the Vatican City. For example, I am the host of Vic the Random, and I can live wherever I want, and I can become president of the United States. But the Catholic Church and the Pope is more like, I've created my own country, and I've set up my Vic the Random podcast there, and become the king. It's not just that I've moved to a country and become the king or president, it's because I've created my own country that benefits my own podcast. Interesting, isn't it? But yet, it's still an election. Whoa. Hope everyone's summer break is going well. This summer, I will be researching a lot on debate topics and a lot on what is going on in our world. So over the summer, I hope to push out more podcasts that involve, pushing out multiple perspectives about a single topic and educating you more on the world. For example, tariffs. There are many interesting sides on tariffs, and I'm not one that's gonna be like, oh, just because this one person says something, it's immediately bad. No, we're going to take a look on both the pros and the cons of tariffs, on how it has helped people before. If you drive a car made by Hyundai or Kia or Genesis, you probably know, and what things are different. That might be one of the episodes. We're also talking about flying cars and multiple different perspectives. So it's still on Vic the Random, and I hope you join me on that over the summer. If that sounds exciting, just share it with other people. I'm sure they'll like it too. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Here are the credits. I'll include the links below. And of course, all of this recorded on a Rodecaster Duo, recorded on a Blue Yeti microphone, and on Google Docs. Apologies for the voice. I just sort of recovered from a sickness. Stay tuned. See you soon.